President Trump took to the Rose Garden today. And what did he do? He announced his new vaccine task force. He set the bar high with an aggressive timeline. But he gave America at the same time just what she needed: optimism for opening.
We have the best and most devoted workers ever to walk the face of the earth. And now we're combining all of these amazing strengths for the most aggressive vaccine project in history. And I just want to make something clear. It's very important. Vaccine or no vaccine, we're back. And we're starting the process.
I was doing the fist pump right there. Yes. Well, Democrats, on the other hand, they just prefer us to cower and crouch in our houses. They are pushing, a friend of mine called today, panic porn. They say we need multiple vaccines, not just one, but multiple. They say the vaccines, even if we have them, we don't know how effective they'll be. They say we need as many as 300,000 government-paid tracers and trackers, hundreds of millions of tests, all of that before we can open again. And a purple unicorn on every street corner. The basic point here is Democrats just don't trust you. And frankly, they don't even like you. So of course they want you to stay indoors, off the streets, and even out of your churches. With only a few exceptions, blue state governors all favor lockdowns over liberty. One of the absolute worst is Michigan's Gretchen Whitmer.
Certainly not an exercise of democratic principles where we have free speech. This is calls to violence. This is racist and misogynistic. These protests, in a perverse way, make it likelier that we're going to have to stay in a stay-home posture.
You're not behaving. Washington State's Jay Inslee is punishing people with another extension of his stay-at-home order to the end of May now, even though they flattened the curve back in April in Washington State. This is insane. So when will he give up his vice grip on power?
It's just a long ways away from that, because we know that the numbers are still so high in our virus that it just can't justify opening up all these businesses right now.
It's not infections, Jay. It's hospitalizations and deaths. That's what is the key here. Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker is escalating his threats against the disobedient.
Businesses and individual professionals that are licensed by state agencies will be held accountable for breaching public health orders. Local law enforcement and the Illinois State Police can and will take action.
Ooh, big threat for a big man. All right. Well, in Gavin Newsom's California, local officials are slapping already suffering businesses with $1,000 citations and threats for jail time for not complying with everything from mask wearing to social distancing, the way they're handling their businesses, whether the stickers are on the ground. LA County, the most populous in the state, is extending its lockdown at least another 3 months. I thought that was a joke when I first heard it. Meanwhile, the mayor of LA, he's power tripping.
We're still getting reports each day of non-essential businesses that continue to operate as normal. This behavior is irresponsible and selfish. If we see continued non-compliance, they'll wind up facing misdemeanor charge, and DWP will step in and shut off their water and power.
And by the way, these prohibitions, and I love that, shutting off your water and the prohibitions, they aren't written in law. They're done through gubernatorial edict. So as long as it's called an emergency, these governors think that they can trample on your rights with impunity, and they're doing that. But lawsuits are being filed. That was good news this week. People who've never protested before in their lives are picking up placards and protesting, even when their livelihoods are threatened, if they still have jobs, or they're even being threatened with jail time. And you just get the sense being out there that Americans are just fed up.
We have a daycare center in Franklin County. It's not open the whole way, so it's barely open enough to keep us afloat.
These things are typically a choice. There's a measles outbreak, and they have all the people who are sick stay home. This is totally flipped. they're making the well stay home, and that makes no sense to me. It don't make us. It's unlawful.
I think Americans need to realize their freedoms are being taken away, and if they don't stand up for them right now, there won't be any freedom to stand up for.
But do any of you watching tonight think that Pelosi and Schumer care about those people? Of course they don't. If you've lost your job, if your child is struggling with distance learning, don't you love that phrase? If you're struggling with loneliness or addiction or depression, you're just collateral damage on the way to the new normal.
All of us are going to be living in a new normal, whether that means wearing a mask, working in shifts.
We're turning to our new normal with all of what we talked about through all phases.
What we have to do is to design a new normal, a way of life to carry us to the other side.
Their idea of a new normal, not so much Dr. Birx, by the way, I'm talking about the politicians. She just got caught up in the lingo. It goes far beyond finding a vaccine or hand washing or covering your sneezes. That's all fine. That's just common sense. The new normal for them is basically everything that Hillary ran on and lost, plus some new radical ideas, from climate change to mass amnesty to guaranteed income and to a massive wealth tax. If the pandemic ends, Democrats lose their leverage, and they know it. That's why every chance they get, their media allies stoke the fears of a weary and worried nation. They want you to be afraid, very afraid. Because when you're afraid, they have more power and they have more authority to tell you how to live your life. And make no mistake, they want this to continue indefinitely. They're playing the only card they have, the fear card. But there are increasing signs in these polls and on the streets that it isn't working. There's traffic again around D.C., Maryland, and Virginia. I noticed it today. And in the always lively New Orleans, we're going to hear from Raymond in a moment, restaurants are still shut down, but folks are out and about again. Many, he told me, are just ignoring the masked shamers outside coffee shops. Freedom brigades of ordinary citizens are now activated. Enterprising Americans are making adjustments and innovating smartly. Naturally, NASCAR will be the first national sport to reopen, albeit without fans. West Virginia University's football coach, he announced the fall season is on. The SEC better follow. Talking to you, Alabama. My friends at Cambria in Minnesota put out a video of an old Paul Harvey broadcast today that really seemed apt.
The more history I study, ours and others, the more certain I am that there is one fertilizer essential to the survival of civilization, and that fertilizer is sweat. I mean the kind of steamy, streamy, salty sweat that's wrung from a man by hard physical work. Somehow, the sweat gets into the soil of a farm or a factory or a city or a state or a nation, and everything thereabouts grows tall and strong and tough enough to stand against any storm.
To stand against any storm. The work ethic of Americans, the need to work and work hard. Of course, he nailed it. Paul Harvey always did. Americans have thrived on the idea that although life is often hard and challenging, you and your family have the freedom to decide how you want to live it. Democrats may live in shutdown nirvana, but the emerging consensus is this. If you want to stay at home, you can stay at home. But for the rest of us, we'll make our own decisions, thank you. Now we know more about this virus. Extremely low lethality or otherwise healthy younger Americans, they do pretty well. Seniors, they need special care. And since the so-called experts say it will be around forever, it's time to move on with our lives. The testing issue is just another Democrat red herring, more impossible hoops to jump through. Testing and tracking for the rest of your life since the virus will be with us forever, just like the flu, they say. The virus has taken many lives. And it's awful. It's a tragedy. It's wrecked a once great economy. But it has also shown for all the world to see who these new radical Democrats really are and what they want. They're petty dictators who want to fundamentally change the America we love. You know, the old normal. The masks are off. And that's the angle.